Welcome to episode 190 of Stageworthy. I'm your host, Phil Rickaby. Stageworthy is a podcast about people in Canadian theatre featuring conversations with actors, directors, playwrights, and more. The Toronto Fringe Festival starts in just a few days, and I've been thinking a lot about shows that I want to see. I've been putting together a list of all of the shows and putting them in my schedule, but I'm leaving space in the second half of my schedule for shows that haven't landed on my radar yet. One of the joys of fringing is finding a show that you didn't even know you would like, and suddenly it drops into your lap and you fall in love with it. That's one of my favorite things, and so I'm leaving space in my schedule for those shows and for other shows that just sort of come up. I would love to hear about the shows that you're looking forward to, so please tell me about them by finding me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at StageworthyPod. But you know what? I also have to do my own self-promotion, so I want to tell you again about my show at the Toronto Fringe, The Commandment. The Commandment is a dark comedy about what happens when an atheist discovers that he's been chosen to deliver God's new commandment. It'll be presented at the Tarragon Extra Space, and you can find out all about it by finding it in your Fringe listings or by following me on my social links on Twitter and Instagram at Phil Rickaby, and you can also find details on simpletruththeatre.com. My guest this week is Michael Ross Albert. Michael is a Toronto-based playwright, and his play The Huns opens at the Streetcar Crow's Nest at this year's Toronto Fringe. How many fringes have you done?
This will be, so this is my second Toronto Fringe as a producer. Mm-hmm. It's my third Toronto Fringe as a playwright. Mm-hmm. And it will be, oh my God. It's going to be my ninth I did 5 Fringe NYC, 1 Edinburgh, it's my 8th.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy. I am a Fringe person.
How early in your career did you do Edinburgh?
Very recently.
Yeah. Okay.
That was in 2017.
Okay.
But my first Fringe was in New York. Was Fringe NYC.
Yeah. We talked about that the first time. Yeah. Because Edinburgh is like, people are like, oh, you're gonna take your show to Edinburgh now? I'm like, fuck no.
Yeah,
I'm not ready for that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The spirit there is cool. Producing a Fringe show anywhere is hard. Producing a Fringe show there is like Herculean.
Yeah, I can imagine.
If you're cool with the experience being the payment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you can afford that and then great.
Yeah.
But, and when I did Edinburgh, I was there, I had written a play for university students and they took it over to Edinburgh and me going for the festival was like my fee.
Right.
So I got a cool trip.
Yeah.
I wasn't producing it. There were performances where no one showed up and that was totally fine by me.
Right.
It was, it's mad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
have you been?
I haven't been. I mean, the closest people are like, oh, you're going to go to Edinburgh? I'm like, I'm still scared of Edmonton Fringe, because that's the biggest one here. If I can get through and be okay with like going to Edmonton, I might start to consider Edinburgh. But until the thought of performing in Edmonton doesn't give me cold sweats, I think I should. I'm not quite ready.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. I would recommend going on a vacation, going fringing.
Yeah.
In Edinburgh on a trip. It's a lot of fun. You can see a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Drink a lot of beer.
I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that you would never see anywhere else.
Yeah, I saw like a Finnish clown acrobat show. I really curated my festival there, so I was like, today will be the modern realists, and I saw an Ibsen, a Chekhov, and a Strindberg in the same day.
Oh,
and it was heavy, and then and then I took the next day off. But you can see everything.
Yeah. I just want to say, because I think you're aware of how much I enjoyed your show Anywhere last year.
Thank you.
But I still, when people are talking about like great shows that I've seen at Fringe, it's one of the ones that's on top of my list.
Oh man, thanks a lot.
Yeah. That show was pretty well received last year.
It was great. I was so thrilled and quite surprised.
Yeah.
We couldn't have been happier with everything. Basically, we got our friends together. I love working with Dave LaFontaine, the director, and Cass Van Wyck and I became really good friends through the process leading up to the rehearsal. And Courtney Sung Lancaster and I had wanted to work together for a little while, and we had Marvin Araneda stage managing and Lindsay Junkin doing the costumes, and we really just we rehearsed in the Assembly Theatre, and it's a serious play. Yeah. It's heavy, but it felt like we were just sort of hanging out with friends, not hanging out, like there was work being done, but we were having fun and not really, it's going to sound arrogant, but I don't think we were working that hard at the producing side of it. And all of a sudden our opening night was sold out, and we went, why did this happen? Did you guys
were you surprised because you hadn't been doing a whole lot of promotion or something?
No more. It didn't feel like we did the amount of work required to sell out the run of a show. But maybe we did. It really took us by surprise. Yeah. And the first night was pouring rain, and it started at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night. It was a later show, and we just stood and watched the factory fill up with soaking wet, excited people. Wow. And that kind of set the tone for the entire run. Wow. We were very, very lucky and very, very fortunate that it was received so well.
Well, because it's interesting, because I think a lot of people think about a successful Fringe show as a comedy.
It's so bizarre. I don't know how. I can't remember the last time I saw a serious play in Fringe, let alone it being one of the patron's pick of the factory, the studio. So we got very, very lucky. We tried to, towards the end of the festival, we were kind of looking around at our the line for the waiting list line, and thinking, how did this happen? And I think last year in particular, there was a lot of improv. There was a lot of comedy. And this was sort of, a play. Yeah. And there was maybe there were just fewer options. I don't know what happened, but we got very, very lucky.
Yeah. It was really good and justifiably lucky, I think.
Thanks.
I don't know if it's luck or whatever, but it definitely deserved all the attention it got.
Oh, thank you.
But you had your second show. We talked about that last year. That was also the other one that you wrote with.
The grass is greenest at the Houston Astrodome. Yeah. And that was a really lovely production of it. It's a play of mine that I like. I guess I like all of my plays, but I was really, really thrilled that Lauren McKinley spearheaded this production of it, and it put together a really great team. They all did very, very good work, and Lauren just won a My Entertainment award for her performance.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So just to jump into this year, the show is called The Huns.
The Huns.
I mean, we were talking a lot about Anywhere, which was a very serious play.
Yeah.
And The Huns Is it serious? How would you describe the Huns?
We're calling it like a menacing comedy.
Oh, fuck, I like that.
It is funny, I think. I've watched people read the script, and I think that there's kind of a, I want to make visceral theater have really emotional reactions from the audience. And so I think that it will, like, it's uncomfortably funny. It's fast paced. And it's mean, and it does deal with very, very serious subject matter, but it's the way we get to that is through social satire. So it takes place in an office in a conference room, at a tech company, a very chic, modern, downtown tech company. And there's a bit of mystery around why these three characters are gathering for a conference call. Tensions are high, and secrets begin getting revealed as the conference call continues. So there are three actors on stage, and there are about a dozen unseen characters participating in on the phone, which means we have to have a really great sound designer.
Yes, yeah,
and we got one. We're working with Andy Trithart.
Nice.
And it's like a ping pong match, or like a Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. The conversation keeps getting derailed. The characters who are on stage really don't like one another and have to put on a bit of a show for everyone that's on the conference call. So we can see we see this, like, the tension of trying to be professional and trying to keep their cool while all of these emotions simmer underneath.
There's a certain logistical, I don't want to say nightmare, about having a show where there's a dozen voices that you don't see. Yes.
I just was speaking with Andy. We're very early on in this process. And he basically was saying that the stage manager will need to be kind of the fourth scene partner, and introduce the possibility that actors might forget a line. And immediately our faces just, like, dropped, what if that happens? Because you're dealing with
recorded
voices. Yeah, it'll be a fun one.
I'm kind of breaking a sweat for your stage manager on that one.
Thanks. Me too. It's going to be more. And I guess this is the case with comedy, is that it's more technically precise. In drama, you can languish in moments, and there's really no room for that in this new piece.
No, and I think that's often the case with most comedies. Yeah. Like, if you languish, you're probably going to kill the joke or kill the momentum,
Yeah, and especially if we're playing with sound cues that are recorded based on timing of different live conversations happening in sync with the recorded conversation. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Oh, that's going to be super precise. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and it's a truncated Fringe rehearsal schedule. Yeah. So we've got our work cut out for us.
Have you guys started rehearsals yet?
No.
Have you?
We just cast the play recently. We're early.
Well, because when I last spoke to you, I think a couple weeks ago, you were like, we were not cast yet.
Yeah, basically. We now are. We have our cast. Yeah. I'm very excited about working with each of them. there are three actors. One is Cass Van Wyck, who was in Anywhere. She's producing again. She got picked in the lottery 2 years in a row somehow.
Wow.
I applied.
There's a lot of people who probably aren't happy to hear that.
My text message, she texted me and said, so I got picked in the lottery again this year, and I think I responded, fuck off.
Yeah. I think you're probably not the only person who would respond that way.
Well, and just, I mean, it's great for me.
Yeah, absolutely,
it's, I'm happy. I got a spot through our collaboration. But I applied every year for a decade.
Yeah.
And never got in. And so I understand that the frustration.
My friend Carlin Ramey entered the maybe 5 years ago, entered the CAF lottery.
Yeah.
First time. She'd never done a Fringe.
And she got it.
Yeah. Everybody was like, fuck you.
I know. Well, that was the case with Cass last year, that she had never applied. Yeah. And, just first Fringe out of the gate.
It's awesome. And second. That's awesome.
And the second one, So she is, the difference, I think, is that, when Cass approached me last year, I had kind of had an idea for a two-hander with women, that was this type of thriller that changed a bit in the writing process, but was basically what Anywhere was going to become. And I have only been working on like full lengths over the last year and hadn't really thought about what a new one act would look like. And so last year, Cass kind of gave me free rein, said, I want to produce a play that you write. I want to be in it. It should have a small, be a Fringe, a portable show. Other than that, sort of do you. Yeah. And this time around, it took some consideration and some conversation, because this is the second year at bat. Yeah. Following a sold out run. So we kind of decided we're gonna add another actor to the mix and write a three-hander, and it should be more of a comedy than a serious play. And that sort of started the ball rolling. So she is one of the cast members. Yeah. The one of the other roles, the woman who's sort of leading the conference call, is going to be played by Brianna Dillon, who's amazing. And there's this sort of big baby in the room who doesn't want to be there at all. He's kind of like a CrossFit bro, and he's being played by Jamie Kavanaugh. Nice. Yeah, nice. So it's a really great team.
What about all the voices? Because there's 12 people.
Yeah, we have to figure that out.
How do you do that?
I don't know. A couple of them have to speak French. It's we have to pull a lot. We have to ask a lot of favors. And the thing is we need to really do that soon, because a key to making the timing and the comedy work will be having those recordings in rehearsal. Yeah. So we're starting a little bit of a plan of begging people to record.
You might not have to beg that hard.
I hope not.
Especially it's a recorded voice. It's almost like a cameo. It's like a walk-on for people, right?
It is. Yeah. It's strange, and I'm trying to think, like, do I show them the entire script, or can they just read their lines? Like, do they? I don't know what's funnier. Yeah. But that's maybe next on the list.
So this is set at a tech company.
It is.
Have you worked in that world?
My sister does. Yeah. Through her, I've kind of been, I've been able to sort of watch from the sidelines a little bit. Yeah. And, what the reason I thought it was kind of a place that's rife for social satire is because this is the young bourgeoisie.
Sure.
You know, they're people that have a very specific skill set that that make a lot more money than I do.
Yeah.
And so I'm very interested in what young people with money are like, I guess. And also the rate of depression and anxiety and mental illness specifically in that industry is alarming.
Sure.
And so in wanting to tackle depression and these things that I feel that I've certainly been feeling more recently. This was a hard winter.
Yeah.
And I think everyone was kind of in this funk. So I think the arena is rife for exploring those issues in it.
It's certainly interesting. I mean, I work in a tech company, and so I've seen a lot of there's this event that happens in September. It's called Startup. I can't remember, but it's like Startup Open House, and you go around to all the Toronto startups, and a lot of people go to look for a job, but you can also go and just be like, oh, so this is what Google looks like, or this is what Shopify looks like, and a lot of them, it's like there's a lot of money just in the ambiance, you know, and for some of them, like everybody talks about culture, but for some companies, culture almost seems to be we have breakfast in the morning, and you can drink after in the afternoon. We'll open up the bar, and that's culture. But for that, in a lot of places, it's almost like we expect you to work for 12 hours a day.
Yes, exactly, and that a lot of that is touched on in the play.
Yeah.
That you are in a sense being tricked into thinking that you have a lot of value to a company that probably sees you as a number cruncher or as a pair of fingers coding. A pair of fingers, 10 fingers,
a pair of hands,
and there are all of these perks, but people stay till all hours of the night and work weekends and in open concept spaces where everyone thinks they're being watched constantly, and they probably are. It's a really, I can understand why there is so many heightened emotions. And I've watched, in starting to kind of research the piece more emotionally than actually, because I don't understand technology. There are like YouTube videos of people just like talking about how much they hate their jobs and pricing out their week in terms of the amount of available time that they have to themselves in their condos downtown and their it's a world I'm really not a part of, and there's so much sadness and so much anxiety that comes with it that I think it's definitely worth addressing.
It certainly is the trade-off that you make in a lot of companies where and especially with younger people starting out, they're willing to put in all those hours for the perks because they think that they have to.
It's so hard to find a job that if you leave right at 5 on the dot, which I do, or I think people get very freaked out about I'm not working hard enough. This isn't. I'm replaceable. There's someone on the other side of the revolving door that can do my job just as well as I can. And it's probably because the work that's required of the staff isn't necessarily individualistic. It's not about creativity, and it's not about insight or intuition. But it's about this skill set that a lot of people
that's very true
have. And I would be anxious. I mean, I don't have that skill set, so I don't have to worry.
Yeah.
It's a very different lifestyle than my own.
Yeah.
Which I think is why I find it interesting.
Well, it's certainly fascinating. And there is, you think about all the anxiety. I know there's a lot of companies where that happens. I'm fortunate in that, I can leave at the end of my day. Like,
yeah,
I work my 8 hours and I can go. And that's, it's a luxury that I also took.
Right.
Because I'm old. I'm 49. I'm ready to, I'm not gonna, yeah.
Oh, you look great.
Why, thank you. Thank you. No, but like, I'm not putting in like 12 hours every day for,
for what? So, for a job?
Yeah.
Well, and I think that we're lucky as artists or as arts-minded people in that we have something that fuels us.
Sure.
That is work that we really enjoy. Yeah. And if I were, if I was a writer that had any kind of structure and the stability to just be a writer, I might work 12 hours a day, or I might work well into the night, as I sometimes do, because it's like that maddening, enjoyable work. Yeah. The pursuit of something that we find meaningful. And the other stuff is how we pay for that.
That's right. And I mean, that's why I leave it at the end of my day, is that's the time that I've carved out to do this podcast or write or prepare to do my show. Like, whatever it is, like, that's what I'm doing after that, Yeah. And if I didn't have that, what would I do? I might come home and watch Netflix or play video games. Which I'm going to do anyway at some point, but that's not why I go home.
Right. And, and like in this modern world in which we find ourselves, I think it's becoming so much more, the way we think about work, has really changed. And there's a lot of this conversation in the play, but we don't prioritize leisure. I don't know if we ever did, and this is a very specific middle class, or what used to be called middle class type of work that we're talking about. We're not going to factories and exhausting ourselves, or, but whatever we have, we don't value our time.
No.
And our lives. Yeah. We have really started to live to work. Yeah. And when you see stressed out people sending work emails on their phone when they're supposed to be out having a good time, I find that really, really unfortunate.
But there's also a social status thing, right? Like, I'm so important, I have to answer this email right now. I do think that that's part of it. There's a certain, like, if all of your friends are performing, this is so urgent, I have to answer this client right now, then you're going to do it too.
Yeah. But like, if there isn't, like, if you're not, the minister, I don't know, if you're not a brain surgeon, if there's no bomb coming that you need to warn the prime minister about, like, your job is not so important that you can't wait until the morning.
That's so true.
And that has always been my attitude. And I, and I'm living the lifestyle, like, I don't have a car, a fancy condo, or things that people that work that hard might have. But I think I like things more. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, that's sort of the trade-off, right? That's the in a way, it's the artist trade-off of maybe I'm not living in a massive condo, but I kind of enjoy the things I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know?
And I get to write plays and have people come. People stand in the rain to see something that I read. It's amazing. That's so cool.
Just to go back to that, what amazes me about that is that there hadn't even been any reviews. There was no,
I don't know how it happened.
Buzz. And that's so freaking rare and amazing for that to just, for that wildfire to start right on the first day like that.
It was wild. It was nuts. I really don't know. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. And it's different, with each production, it's completely unpredictable. You can't tell which one is going to be successful.
You also, because you don't know what else, what is happening this year at Fringe. You don't know. You couldn't know that if this is what was it, that there would be a ton of improv shows and everything would be comedy. And
no, you do what you want to do, and hope for the best, and working with really good people that speak the same language. Yeah, I think that might be why it didn't feel like a ton of work, because watching these actors work with this director. Feels like playtime. Yeah. Even though the subject matter was very serious.
I mean, anybody who didn't see that show missed one of the stressful hours of theater I think I've spent. But it was an exhilarating stress. There was just this. It was like somebody took an elastic and just started stretching it.
Yeah.
And we were waiting for it to snap, and it didn't snap. So.
Some people have asked if it could be a little longer, and I don't know. I don't think you can sustain the tension.
I think that if it was any longer, you would definitely lose something.
Yeah, I agree. Even, after what I saw, I think I saw there was one performance I didn't see. And watching it over and over, I thought, there's a little room for this. This moment is luxuriating a little too long.
Yeah.
But it is about sustaining that tension and, I don't know, the knowing what the secrets are before I started writing was very important on this one.
Right.
Because there was one big one that no one saw coming.
Right.
And being in the audience was the most satisfying moment. And, some nights it was, the audience thought it was a rollicking comedy and they were talking. We had one late night. We had a Friday the 13th performance at 11:30 p.m. and they were drunk and really talking back, but in this kind of exasperated, I'm frightened way. And then there were some performances where you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
And it was a very cool experience.
It's interesting because those moments where you can hear a pin drop, it's like nobody wants to move. They're so in it, which is a fascinating thing to watch in an audience.
Yeah. It was a really great experience.
Speaking of tension in a show, we were just talking just a couple weeks ago with Anne Van Leeuwen.
Yeah,
about Come On Angie, and you brought that show to Leroy Street. Or?
Yeah, I'm one of the producers. Yeah, I'm friends with Amy Lee Lavoie, the playwright. Yeah. And I'm a huge admirer of her work. And I read the piece a few years ago while she was working on it, before the Me Too movement was a thing. And it blew my mind. It's really taut drama, really fascinating character study. Yeah. And a great example of a writer playing with audiences' perspectives. Yeah. The way we see these characters at various points in the play are radically different, and everyone will leave having a different opinion about which line was crossed when and who is in the right. And I it was a big success in Vancouver. And I asked Amy who's doing it in Toronto, and she said no one's really bit. And I know that Anne and Leroy Street were looking for another production that Anne would act in. So I kind of asked permission to show it to them, and immediately upon, this is the type of play that I think any actor worth their salt, if they want to go to the places that the play requires them to go to, will say yes immediately upon reading it, which is basically what happened. And read the script and said, we just kind of need to do this. And so that's been, and thankfully audiences feel the way I do about it. It's, I've never seen so many people stay behind the assembly to talk after a show.
Well, that's sort of one of the interesting things is, I think that's kind of what you want with a lot of shows. Like, you don't want people to, this is not, Come On Angie is not a show that anybody should stand up and say, well, that was nice, and then get their coat and leave.
No.
They should have thoughts and stay to talk about them.
Yeah.
And that's a great sign for a play, I think, when people are still talking about it.
Yeah, I agree. I've gotten a lot of text messages or, people touching base a few days after seeing it, just saying, I can't stop thinking about this, or, and it is because it's so disturbing because it's so normal.
Yes. Yeah.
That I think that's what really gets under people's skin. And she's such a talented writer that she goes into the nooks and crannies of the deepest parts of our psyche that we don't want to touch. And it's a good one. It is a very powerful piece.
It certainly is. I mean, it's not the kind of, I didn't leave thinking, well, I really loved that, but it was because it's not a feel-good romp. You think about it for a long time afterwards.
Yeah. That's not saying it isn't without humor.
Oh, it certainly has a lot. Yeah, absolutely. And it has to.
The marvelous construction of this piece is that it is funny, and knowing Amy Lee as well as I do, I can hear her jokes. I can hear her voice in both of the characters throughout the piece, and I laugh out loud. I've seen it about 6 times, right? And we are experiencing repeat audience members, which is really, really great. That people.
Are people bringing friends? You have to see this? Is it that kind of thing?
Yeah, to a degree, but I think what I've seen more often is that people have gone with a friend and then wanted to come and see it again. And those are mostly men.
Interesting.
Who, I think she's really onto something.
Well, I think the interesting thing about it is that and correct me if I'm wrong, because you've seen it more times and maybe heard more audience conversations. I think that men watch it in a different way than women, especially the first time.
Maybe.
Generally? I mean, I'm generalizing, of course.
But I think that's... Well, I think it's really specific to the individual that however the news cycle has hit you, however, whatever your personal beliefs are, you will be, and I've heard from a lot of women who have said to me, I feel so guilty. I felt so guilty throughout most of the play because I was on his side most of the time. Really? Yeah. Wow. And it's this is a really important piece. I hope that it is empowering. I think that as a man, it's absolutely a conversation that we need to hear and 100%. Should be And it's articulated in a way for us dum-dums that we can really hear the message of the play very clearly. And I think it's also very important that women, if they have or haven't experienced some kind of assault, even if it is, a quote unquote innocuous one, like what is purported to have happened in the play, that there's the framework, the groundwork for standing up to it, for even if one doesn't, the awareness that this is not okay. Yeah. These small steps that the characters make have huge impacts on audiences. Yeah. Anywho, I could talk about the play for a long time.
One of the things, because I remember around the time that I asked on Facebook about content warnings, I think you were also wondering about content warnings, which is and in fact, I've been seeing a lot of people talking about content warnings. There was an article in the Star a little while ago about that, and I saw Howard Sherman in the States. He also copied it. He also saw that article and was looking for thoughts on it, because it's a question that it's funny, because I think that there's a certain, all the millennials that I've spoken to are like, well, of course you would have a content warning. Mm-hmm. And some of the older people are like, well, why would you need it? Let's stop being babies. Let's, there's like a whole almost generational attitude towards the two.
The question for me, or the problem that I have wrapping my head around is, if sensitive material is structured as a surprise.
Yes.
How does one adequately prepare an audience? Because I don't think, we were just talking about audience participation. Yeah. And if I had known that sitting in this seat would mean that I would get made fun of in front of a room full of people, I wouldn't have gone to the play.
No.
I don't like that type of experience. And if I am affected by this type of content, I think it's your business to prepare someone for that experience. And this is where things get tricky. I like making audiences squirm. Yeah. I personally like being surprised. By not by having an actor in my lap, but by when a play takes an unexpected turn, or takes a turn into darker material, that really gets my neurons firing. Yeah. So that's what I have difficulty with. And I saw there's a great comment on your post saying that if it is structured as a surprise, it's fair to say there is a content warning. Some people may find it triggering. For more information, email us and we'll tell you what it is.
Yeah.
And I think so we are doing that with the Huns. Yeah. There is a content warning. If you want to know why, you can send us an email. With Come On, Angie, we post the content warning on the front of the program, and I think because there's no avoiding it. Yeah. I did get a comment from an audience member saying 10 minutes in, I sort of didn't realize what I was. It hit me what I was in for, and I didn't know if I felt like staying. Right. And I thought that shouldn't. We've warned you. Yeah. We said this very explicitly. This is what the subject matter is. It's one way or another, it will make for an uncomfortable experience. I think I've landed on the side of the argument that says it's more responsible to take the audience's feelings to heart and not the last thing I would want to do is have someone have a traumatic experience.
Yes. Yeah.
They can not enjoy the play. That's fine.
That's
they
one
can,
thing.
you know, they can, it can be not to their taste, but for them to carry this experience with them into the world.
Yeah.
In a negative way is unfair of the creator, I think.
Yeah. I was very much resistant to the idea for about a year. But it occurred to me just this year that if my play, for example, talks about suicide, and I know some people very well this year who lost somebody, and I would warn them about my show. I would say maybe it's too soon for you, and then I thought, if I would do that for my friend, why would I not do that for my audience? And so but again, it's also a plot point.
I know.
So it's like, how do you do that?
I think that's a really great example, or a really great suggestion that whoever posted, I forget who it was.
I think it was Jordy O'Dale, actually. I think, yeah.
Well, it was a great suggestion. Yeah. Because I was resistant to it too. I remember there was a Fringe show, and I read a review of it. I didn't actually see it, but it caused a lot of attention because the bent of the review was there should have been a trigger warning, and my first thought was, well, if you're so triggered by that, you shouldn't leave your house. You know, if you're gonna and that's a really ugly voice. That I have learned that has matured. Yes. Because I know people that are triggered by things that can move about the world like normal people. It doesn't mean we're coddling the audience. It doesn't mean we're holding their hands or treating them like babies. We're taking their feelings into consideration and moving forward with empathy, which is what this whole business is about.
There's a resistance, I think, to the word trigger, to the phrase trigger warning.
Yeah, certainly.
That certain people have.
Well, and I was on a university campus last year, and you can see the eye rolls from faculty, in my good friend is in a history department and has to do a trigger warning before talking about ancient history, and you think, oh, are we like it's but it really doesn't cost anyone anything.
Yeah, that's the thing. And it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, but I agree. There is a very clear generational divide. And I sort of straddle those two. And, I think it's important to be on the they're going to be around a lot longer than
I would rather. Yeah, I'd rather be on the side of my audience than on the side of my ego, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I don't mind pissing off an audience.
No.
But I don't want them.
But I don't want them traumatized. Yeah. Just jumping back to Fringe.
Yeah,
you guys are in the new venue this year at Crow's Streetcar,
we sure are.
Which is a little farther away than we're used to for Fringe.
Totally is.
Does that give you pause, or are you nervous about that?
Well, we requested to be in there. We requested the studio space. I'm working with Marie Farsi. She's directing the play. She's the associate artistic director of Crows, and she kind of lives in that building. When we saw that it was a venue, thought, this is a no-brainer. She is going to be directing a show in the studio in the fall, and this felt really like a good way of getting her feet wet in the space. And we were all, it's 90 seats, and we sold that easy last year. So, and it's an intimate three-hander that I think would do very well in the studio space. And we were allocated the cavernous main space, the Guloyan, however you pronounce the Guloyan, the main space at Crows.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are lots of seats to fill.
There are, yeah. It's what, 200?
It's like that? I think on the nose. I think it's exactly 200. It's big. Yeah. It's
But is it bigger? Is it bigger than the main space at Factory, or the main space at, or like the Randolph?
No. Yeah. I think it's slightly. I think it's smaller than the main space at Tarragon. Mm-hmm. It's slightly bigger than Passmarais. Mm-hmm. It's about the same size as Factory. There's something about the architecture of that building, because it's designed as a flexible space. Right. So when you do this kind of proscenium style seating, it can look quite empty, and filling it with a very small set and 3 actors will be an interesting challenge. Yeah. But I'm confident that, I think it's a beautiful theater. Absolutely. It's a great neighborhood. There is a lot of hunger for the arts in that community that doesn't come west. Yeah. So I'm hopeful that it'll be a boon for Fringe.
I think it may be. I mean, if I was just talking with Coal Mine Theater, and their audience is almost entirely from the East End. Yeah. Which says there is a hunger for it.
I think so. And it's on top of it's underneath a condo building of people that would love to come see a play. Sure. I hope. And there's an air-conditioned bar. I mean, right outside the doors of the theater.
Air conditioning is a big draw for a lot of theaters, unless it's St. Vlad's. But let's talk about blankets. But yeah, so that's always that's also on my I don't want to be there list, because there's nothing worse than like doing a show and like watching your audience huddle under blankets.
That's a warning you need to give out. Like I had a show in St. Vlad's and I had to say, wear a sweater. And people look at me like I'm insane. And because, in the middle of heat waves.
But they also, it's freezing. Every time I've been at a show there, they're like, take a blanket. People are like, what is this for? And you're like,
you will need it.
Just take the blanket, So yeah. But I think it's a great experiment for Fringe to move out there, and I think your show sounds really great. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. This is going to be like, I think, much like Anywhere, like the first time this is staged, and so I'm sure you're going to learn a lot about the show between now and when it's up there. But right now, is there something in particular that you're excited to learn about this show?
There is a lot of talking without a lot being said in this play. And I think that there's one relationship in particular that's very suggested more than and I'm really interested to see how that's accomplished through acting and directing. How in a bombastic comedy there can be room for subtlety. Yeah. So I'm anxious to get into the rehearsal and see that. I think how this play will go from comedy to serious is something I'm interested in refining. Also, these guys are so good. It's like it's a really great cast, and I'm excited to be in the room with them. I love working with Marie Farsi. This is our first time working together, and just seeing her in auditions talking to actors about what's going on in the scenes, hearing her insights into the piece itself and the characters has been really wonderful. Nice. The collaboration is off to a good start.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me again.
This has been a Homebody Productions production.